in record mode, and we'll leave the chimes on unless, Kelby, you want them off. But it's a crazy, crazy week in our country. I don't know if everybody's heard what's going on down in Texas and Arizona. Obama's administration has said it is a stand down for Border Patrol. The gates to our country are wide open right now. There's been somewhere around 35,000 illegals. And I hate to say illegals because, you know, at once we all were, I guess. But they're coming in and they're bringing things like tuberculosis and all kinds of crazy diseases and things. They're coming over and having their babies. They're holding out. I don't know how a woman could hold out, but they're making it to the border, and they're having the children. They're coming from all over Central America, et cetera, and that is just part of the plan to, you know, get the vote to be a Democratic vote, which, of course, most everyone on this call is awake to the fact that there is a corporation government that is running this country. There's two constitutions going on, which Kelby's going to talk about tonight. And he's going to explain the difference, and he's going to talk about something that people have come on our call and been talking about for, I guess we've been doing these for a year and a half now, and this very reason, the fact that there's two governments in play, one, the Republic, which is behind the scenes, and we're basically struggling because we're fighting a very rogue government at this moment. Why I ended my Senate campaign back in 2012 as I became aware of what's really going on and the things that I was subjected to as I was running. So don't forget, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/42actions. Somebody does have a lot of background noise, 402 and 620. Guys have a lot of background noise, so try to get that muted. We're on Twitter. Make sure you follow us. We put some tweets out on there that are generally pretty interesting. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, 620. Sorry about that. I just have you, Betty. I think that's you. Without further ado, we have Kelby on the line, and I know a lot of you know who he is. Some of you do not. If you haven't been on his calls, he has a website called hisadvocate.org. Kelby was pivotal in waking me up and helping me to make the decision to end my campaign where I was running for state senate in Iowa. And I actually flew to Atlanta and heard him speak. I let him know in advance what I was really there for. I was there for the law, but I was there for just deep information, and I got that. And I had at that time, well, he's 25 now, my oldest son was with me at that time, and he listened to Kelby talk, and Fred was talking, Nina had spoke, and I want to say Mel had already spoke as well from Southern California. But when Kelby got up and spoke, my son said, "This is it. I can't believe it. There's actually somebody that thinks the way I think, that has researched the way I've researched, and is believing so much of the same information that has become aware of it." And he said, "I think I found my calling," and it has literally changed his life. He went home after that weekend, and he had to go before a judge. He flew home on a Sunday, and he had to go before a judge on Monday for bogus charges that a cop had written him up on while stopped at a stoplight. And the cop was a bicycle cop. And my son went before the judge and fought his case.
Agreed.
Hey, welcome, Doug. Glad to have you on. The judge postponed the court case. It gave my son another 30 days to study everything he could find. And when he went back in 30 days later, it was all dismissed. And the judge did try to do some funny stuff with him, and he had a cop in the seats yelling, "Put him in jail for contempt of court." And it kind of was due, and my son had a recorder in his pocket recording the whole thing, and I was just so proud of him. And it was because of that one weekend where we met Kelby, and it was life-changing. So, Kelby, so glad to have you on, my friend.
Hey.
A Superman, as you've been called in the past from some of our callers. You know what we're going to talk about tonight? Is there anything you wanted to open up with?
Yeah, foundation. You know, I'm in the Republic, and there's a lot of ignorance in our country, in law and just general practices, and I want to talk about that because, you know, the information that they've given us is in plain sight to help us. It's in plain sight. It's been right there, and we just need to know how to grab it. In a nutshell, I had my eyes open in 2008. I saw the Church of Satan symbol, the upside-down pentagram in the streets of Washington, D.C., and I thought to myself, who's mocking my God? And I was really upset, and it put me on a journey of trying to understand this government, who I watched give an $800 billion bailout to the banks when the people were hurting and going through a major collapse, and they were talking about how to bail out these pigs. And so I went from a staunch George Bush saluting conservative Republican to what the hell is wrong with this world kind of a thought. And I started going into a study, and I don't recommend this for anybody, but I spent 6 months making no money and figuring a lot of stuff out, and it scared the hell out of me when I realized what was really going on. And in a nutshell, we're sold this bill of ladle, this set of goods that we're the United States, and we're not. The United States is a corporation under Title 28, Section 3002. It's very clear it's a federal corporation. And when you look at the Declaration of Independence, it literally says the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. And the United is a lowercase because it's an adjective describing the two jurisdictions that come right after the adjective. The two jurisdictions are what? They're states and they're America. Okay? We have never been the United States if you fall under the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I know that sounds weird. I don't want to get into all that with everybody on the phone call right now. But to understand who you are as one of the people, you are not one of the people. And let's just read the preamble for the Constitution real quick together, because I want you guys to get some principles through your head. We the people, meaning whoever that is, of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Now listen very carefully to the next words. To ourselves and our posterity. Everything in law matters. The words, the casing, the upper and the lower case, and if you don't believe it, go crack a Black's Law dictionary, and I'm going to read you some stuff right now. Go grab the 8th edition, just for the sake of it, and I'm going to read you a couple of things so that you can understand that there has been a usurping of the people underneath a lowercase state and replacing them with persons in a territory with the uppercase state, like in California. 1849, we had the upper and lowercase state of California Constitution. Now, in 1879, the Constitution title changed to an all-capital letter. Every letter was capitalized, called state. So when you look at just this one sample of the difference of the two, you're going to drop your dang jaw, and it's going to be a little bit scary for you, and that's fine, because it helps you open up your eyes and your mind. And I'm just going to, off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me. State, lowercase, in Black's Law 8th edition, is a community, a body of people. That's what state means in all lowercase. It means a body of people. And you look right underneath it, state in all caps, it means a community of persons in a territory. Okay? the definition of community, persons, and territory are very clear. There's multiple definitions, but when you ask yourself, what do these things mean? Why is state uppercase not saying people? Why does it say persons? Why is a state uppercase referring to it being a community of people on a territory? It's because every state in this United States since the late 1800s has been converted to corporate all capital letter states that reside on territories. So now, how do they get and grant jurisdiction from getting you when you were born, and theoretically when you're born, because of what your parents did in the marriage contract, you're chattel of the state. Now, I don't want to get into that, but we can if you like or if you have questions. But the point is, to be one of the people, which is clearly outlined in the Declaration, to fall in one of the two jurisdictions, which is state jurisdiction or America, to fall in one of those jurisdictions, you need to understand what the Constitution has said. The Constitution has said that contracts are the highest form of law, period. So if you decide to contract as a person, and listen to my words, please, carefully. If you decide to contract as a person with a corporation, that law, the contract is the law, is higher than the Constitution, period. So when you go down and read your driver's license application on the back of it, where it says, I agree, I'm in the United States with the uppercase U under federal jurisdiction, then you read what federal means, and you read what jurisdiction means, and you read what the word United States means, it might as well say, I agree, I'm under corporate rule in the District of Columbia. So now you've let go of being one of the people with one adhesion contract, and you've contracted to be a federal employee under the United States Corporation. Now, why is this critical? Because we're, as a bunch of sheep, going into court, and we're demanding rights that we don't have. Because it's the Supreme Court, it clearly, go read Cruikshank versus U.S., and read the whole thing. Don't come back and say it doesn't say that, it does. The Bill of Rights only applies to the state citizen. Now, if you just listen to me, there's multiple cases that say just that. The federal government did not adopt the Bill of Rights. Now, if you don't believe me, watch this one. And anybody that wants to contest this, please send me one of your hate emails or whatever. It's kind of hard to contest law and what these definitions and these things mean. But go to house.gov. House.gov is the corporate United States congressional website and archives. Go type the word Constitution in the subject line. Pull up the first PDF that you come to. That PDF is a PDF copy of the Constitution. Scroll down to the Bill of Rights. The first 12 Bill of Rights are in brackets. Do you know what brackets mean? It means omitted. It's not a part of that document. In the English language, that's what brackets mean. Then look at the 13th, 14th, and on. They are not in brackets. They're telling you in plain sight that they didn't adopt that as the corporation. That's my opinion, period. It's only an opinion. But I think it's a pretty good opinion because they certainly treat us as if we don't have any rights, and I think everybody on this call would agree. So why play the game with us and pretend like we're all the people that have all these rights and then make corporate policy and decisions over our lives and over the people, such as the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, such as Obamacare, and these different bills that we are going to be tortured with, literally, down the road. It's because those bills only apply to a federal employee or a federal citizen. The federal citizen is one of four. Randy, stop me. I don't know if I'm going too far here or what, but
no, you're doing great.
Okay. The federal citizen, guys, is the lowest of 4 citizenships on the land. The highest is the state citizen, because the state citizenship comes with the Bill of Rights in law. So I'm going to read you something. Here's a case, Supreme Court, State versus Fowler. State versus Fowler, Fowler. A person who is a citizen of the United States federal government is not necessarily a citizen of a particular state which he resides, but a person may be a citizen of a particular state and not a citizen of the United States federal government. To hold otherwise would be to deny the state the highest exercise of its sovereignty, the right to declare who are its citizens. All right. So now you just heard a big chunk, and that's one of many, 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 many cases that say you can be more citizenships on this land. Now, when you finally get that through your head and you start resolving that, hey, wait a minute, I read the rulings of the Supreme Court that say the Bill of Rights only applies to the state citizens. I'm a United States of America citizen, but I don't feel that treated like that. Well, you have to realize you've done a series of contracts and received a series of benefits that prove that you are a corporate 14th Amendment United States with the uppercase U citizen. Period. There's no getting around that. If you sign an agreement, your social, your drivers, your credit cards, your bank accounts, your passport, your anything, you have put yourself under the jurisdiction of the United States Corporation, and you have to abide by the rules that they've put in place for you. Now, I'm going to tell you something really neat. On His Advocates, we offer this to the people. It's a service that we offer, and this is where it starts. Because on a passport, you are identified. Your first name is not called first name. It's called given name. Because this is where it all starts. Passports are international. Okay? So when you're writing down your information on a passport application, the application is done in fraud and deceit. And I'll explain that in just a second. But the passport application says plainly that you must provide a Social Security under Section 6039E of the Internal Revenue Code. And basically they tell you must provide a Social Security number on your passport application. Well, we looked up 6039E, and it's referring to a tax ID number, which only applies to a business. So that's fraud number one. That has no bearing on whether or not we need to provide it for a passport application. And watch this. Section 7 of the Privacy Act of 1974 specifically provides that it shall be unlawful for a federal, state, or local government agency to deny any individual any right, benefit, or privilege provided by law because such individual's refusal to disclose their Social Security number. So, it shall be, now listen, it shall be unlawful again for a federal, state, or local government agency to deny any individual right, benefit, or privilege provided by law because such individual's refusal to disclose their Social Security number. Here's the public law. Public Law 93-579, Section 7, 5 U.S.C., Section 552A. Unless disclosure is required by federal statute or welfare recipients to obtain and provide Social Security numbers of children. So here's the point, guys. I took a passport application, and this isn't something I made up. There's other guys that helped me. And I put on the application no social, no zip code, and my country was America. My nationality is Californian, and I on the signature line, I put all rights reserved without prejudice, non-assumpsit, and signed my name. Gave my old passport. I'm sending it back because the application was done in errors, and I put an explanatory 3-page letter together along with supporting documents showing the laws that pertain to why I did the application the way I did. And I received a federal State Department issued United States of America passport, indicating what I did on the application was correct, because they would not issue a passport if it was incorrect. So I set a mile marker. I separated myself because I told them on the application that I am from California. I am a Californian, and the documents that I am submitting determine that my nationality is Californian, born in California, according to the United States Government Printing Office Styles Manual, Section 5.23, in designating the natives of the states, the lowercase states. The following forms will be used and shall be reflected on my passport in the section of nationality. And so the point is, this letter went out, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I'll read you the important sections. Please note that I am not a 14th Amendment citizen as defined in Black's Law 6th edition of the words United States, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. I'm a citizen of California, being an inhabitant of California state, and therefore a citizen of the United States, lowercase u, as it is on the Declaration of America, as I stated on my passport application. Now, Hubin versus Allison was partially turned over, but it's a Supreme Court case that defined the words United States. It actually defined a whole lot more. But basically, in that case, a Supreme Court justice said the United States has three different meanings, and this is important, and you can find this in multiple case laws, something to this effect, but here it is in a nutshell. Number one, it may be the name of a sovereign occupying the position of other sovereigns in a family of nations. Now, let's stop there for a second. First of all, that's the United States definition of the District of Columbia. So it's the name of a sovereign occupying the position of other sovereigns in the family of nations. So if I really were to break that down, it would be pretty significant. But in my opinion, it's just saying there's a family of nations, of people, and they are occupying the position of sovereigns in a family of nations in the District of Columbia. The second definition is it may designate the limited territory over which sovereignty of the United States, meaning with the uppercase U, federal government, extends. That is the territory over the land of which they occupy. And the third definition is it may be the collective name for the 50 states, lowercase, which are united, lowercase, by and under the United States Constitution. So the first two have no definition, which are united by and under the United States Constitution. It just says it's a sovereign occupying the position of other sovereigns in the family of nations. And the third definition, which is me, is it's the collective name for 50 states which are united by and under the Constitution. So when you look at why this is important, and you look at State versus Fowler as one case, you're starting to realize that, wait a minute, I could be a state citizen. And I'm just going to say this. There's people out there that knock the state citizen movement. It's because they don't understand. They really don't. Or it's somebody that tries to be a state citizen and they do it improperly and they go get arrested and they do stupid things, but yet they have a series of a bunch of contracts that are still open that they haven't taken care of, or you're only as good as your latest contract. And what do I mean by that? And this is something I've had to deal with the Republic on from a standpoint of education, and it's not easy because we've been trained as a bunch of dumb sheep. A lot of people will say, well, because it was done in an adhesion format, we can write law and just erase it all and not worry about it, that those adhesion contracts don't apply. But wait a minute, I'm still getting my Social Security check. I'm still getting my Veterans Disability check. I'm still getting my, my retirement check direct deposited to my bank account, where when I applied, I said I was a United States citizen. And so you're wanting to pretend you take care of a part of your citizenship, but you're not willing to step all the way in and take care of all of it. Those are the people that are getting in trouble. And I'm going to say this one time. The movements out there that are getting in trouble are not the state citizen movements. People that are state citizens, truly state citizens, under the Republic, have no obligation whatsoever to any federal law if you've done it right. It's like a federal officer trying to tell you an Argentinian or a South African native who has not contracted with the United States through visas or whatever, green cards or whatever, that they have to obey and live by the law of the corporation. It's just not possible, because the IRS does not apply in many foreign governments, right? Well, it's no different than a state foreign government. Remember something. The United States is a foreign, corporation with respect to state. That's in the law, Merriam versus U.S., I believe. United States is a foreign corporation with respect to state. So what we're saying, if you're a state citizen and you're under the Constitution and under the United lowercase u States of America, and you've dissolved your contracts with the corporation, you've properly applied to be a state citizen and get federal recognition of your state citizenship status, you're living in a different world. Now, I can go on and tell you what I did on my driver's license, what I've done on my bank accounts, what I've done on all the different adhesion contracts, but I think it's important that we understand that it's only a corporation that we're dealing with. Now, obviously, it's a very mean and ugly one, and they're doing a lot of damage to not only themselves and Americans and United States citizens and people around the world, but that can be changed. Everything that's happening right now is biblical, period. And we as a body of people need to start understanding that we need to develop the citizenry of the states again and start exiting from the federal government back into a state and republic government and start being self-governed, because that's the mentality that we have left. We are not only not self-governed, we are the new Roman Empire with 70 million people on food stamps. We're going to the Coliseum to watch the MMA fights, and we're fat, we're happy, and we're not really realizing what's happening around us, because they're slowly dripping and doing their business as a corporation, and they're keeping us they're keeping us dumbed down. So being self-governed, guys, is one of the hardest things to do in this world. And that's why we, the people, are very few. But I guarantee there is a structure and system that is much like a diplomatic immunity for those people that qualify, that didn't give themselves over to the corporate U.S., that properly realigned their contracts and stepped out and stepped into the role of we the people. I can go on and on, Randy. You told me half an hour, and I'm coming up on my time, so I'm going to yield.
You can take more. I think what I want you to touch on, kind of how I plugged you, because you did lay a great foundation here, is some of the people that are getting arrested, and Tim Turner is one in the past, is the corporate government is getting them on jurisdiction. And
right.
So you've mentioned these adhesion contracts, and you also mentioned, and I hope that everybody goes back and listens to the recording, because you said certain things that you're putting on these contracts and removing from the contracts.
Right.
like zip code or state, and talking about putting in all rights reserved and non-assumptive.
Right.
And so some of the contracts, or some of the adhesion contracts that people have gone down on recently, what were some of the contracts that, like when they came in, when the feds came in and they got these people, we don't have to mention them if you don't want to, what was the first thing that they did?
And every not necessarily the indictment, but when they're looking into trying to get a warrant put together, they put a 40, 50, 100-page document outlining all the fraud and the facts and the lack of facts, whatever you want to call it. But on the first page, they always got to identify jurisdiction. And the first thing they do is they say they contacted the Postmaster General and determined that that person receives personal mail at that address. Okay. So when you understand the word zip code, zone improvement plan, and you understand the mailbox, and you understand what that basically means, when you go get a personal mailbox in your all capital letter name, and I'm going to say this first and foremost, you need to start at the very beginning, and you need to re-identify how you operate. Now, that's a big statement, and it's a lot. But when in 1933, they created basically, first off, the bankruptcy. Secondly, HJR 192 making the United States citizen the collateral for the public corporate debt. Thirdly, 1935, you can review this, it's around page 650, they talk about the birth certificates having a value of, I think, $1.5 million per year. So the people from 1913 to 1933, the gold was removed, okay? The country, United States corporation, was in debt. The bankers collapsed the market, bought up the market at 5 cents on the dollar, and then said, look, we're going to let you sit here for 4 or 5 years, and we're going to make you sweat it out, and then we're going to do a new deal. And the new deal is, since we've already taken the land, now listen, House Resolution Act 1491, very clear, go read it. United States land has been pledged against the debt. Now, obviously it was done in fraud, but I'm just saying what it says, and you make your own determinations. So what was left was the people to collateralize a new deal. And the people and their sweat equity and their birth certificate became the value in a system where there was no money. So how money is created is pretty simple. It's based on your signature. If you don't believe it, I can go get an exhibit for you by a Federal Reserve attorney who discusses this. It's on his advocate's website, where it outlines that money is created at the local bank based on the signature of the party that's signing the instrument. So when you're going to get a loan for a house, you're not getting a loan. No loan was ever made. You're signing a note. The note is put through the Federal Reserve window. The bank is allowed to print money or basically put digits equivalent to that note in their system, and no loan was ever made. It's 100% done in fraud. It's 100% in deceit, and the corporate United States government is behind 100% of it and the owner of it all. So, in a nutshell, now that you got a little bit of a foundation of the fraud against the people, and you start to understand why they want to bring the people in the jurisdiction, you got to ask yourself, number one, I need to understand what the jurisdiction is, because I'm afraid, and this is what a lot of people say, I'm afraid that to denounce my United States citizenship. Well, that's naivety, because it means you don't understand that this is not the United States. It's either a state or it's America. Okay? People have called it United States of America, but I guarantee the founding fathers didn't say, I am a citizen of the United States. They said, I'm a Virginian. They said, I'm a New Hampshireite. They were proud of their state because that's their nationality. It's a nation. And that nation was lowercase united because it's an adjective describing the states of America. America is the name of our country, guys. Period. So when you denounce or you say, I'm not a United States corporate citizen, you're really just saying I'm an American. I was born here, but I understand now the fraud of the corporation, and I want to set myself aside from that fraud. And I want to reapply myself as a Californian and as an American, and I got to do it on every contract that I run across. Bank accounts. Read your bank account. It says United States person, and it says United States citizen. All my bank accounts, same way. I crossed out every time they brought the signature card out. I asked them to take and get me a glass of water. And then I start crossing out U.S. person, U.S. citizen, I agree, cross out IRS rules, and I sign it with the word by, and I put my full name, and I put all rights reserved without prejudice right underneath my signature, on top of the signature line, right there, and I take a picture of it, and I'm done. If they accept that contract, that I'm not a United States citizen, that I'm not agreeing to the terms, reserving all my unalienable rights, then and give me an account, then I'm done. That's a good account. It's the same way with the driver's license. I crossed out U.S. citizen. I crossed out all I agrees. I crossed out U.S. person. I signed I had to sign 4 times in California to get my driver's license. I signed it all rights reserved without prejudice. Actually, at that time, it was UCC 1-308. It was 5 years ago before I understood I didn't even need to do that. And so, reserving all my unalienable rights under God, not man. The Constitution, we have no rights. The Constitution is there to restrict the government from stepping on our rights under God. The Bill of Rights is defined very clearly. And do you have access to the Bill of Rights as a federal citizen? No. Do you as a state citizen? Yes, you do. But the difference is it's very important that you go through all the contracts, you redo your SS5, you redo your W8, your I-9, what else? Your anything that would imply that you are a United States citizen, voting contract, big one. That's huge. Make sure you get that one nailed out. And this takes time. I've been doing this I started, I think, with my driver's license. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think the federal government requires you to walk into federal court with a driver's license? Think about it. Why can't you walk into court with a birth certificate or a passport? They want jurisdiction. Yes.
Chris in Las Vegas, I have 2 observations. One, I've recently had quite a bit of success entering federal courts with the private identification as opposed to a state identification or federal identification. And you mentioned your full name on your bank cards that you would sign crossing out. But when you say full name, do you mean your legal name or your lawful name?
My birth name. My born name.
And are you including your last name in that conception,
Absolutely.
or are you leaving that out?
No, I include it. But please understand, reserving all your rights without prejudice, non-assumpsit, is no contract whatsoever, no matter what. No matter how you sign, as living or person, with the word by in front of your name indicates that you are the agent of the person.
Kitchen.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm unmuting everybody. Yeah, he's still there. He said thank you. I'm unmuting everybody, and you can remute yourself if you have background noise. Because I had muted several of you during the call because of the background noise. So
okay.
everyone is undone. If you need to mute out, please. If you have us on speakerphone, take us off because it does echo. One of the things that I wanted you to touch on, too, I'm going to open it up for questions, but then I want you to touch on the mail and mailboxes and yards and even just like really hit that one, since that's the one you and I have been talking about in the last couple of days.
Well, assuming the office holder of the person, let's go back to a federal indictment or the paperwork to require jurisdiction. I know I went off sideways a little bit there, Randy. When somebody is trying to get a warrant against an address, they have to establish that the corporation has jurisdiction over that party, that address. The first thing that you'll see on the paperwork is they contact the Postmaster General to make sure that you receive personal email at that address. The second thing they'll do is go to the DMV to make sure that you have a registered vehicle at that address under your name. The third thing, and a lot of times they'll do is show bank account IRS, but it's always in threes. So I want to help you understand what I am doing personally. If this is my thing, you don't have to do this. I am absolutely doing this. And I've already done it before, but I'm doing something over the top now to make sure it's right. What I do is I have a private box with like UPS, and I discussed this with Randy yesterday, and Randy's seen this stuff, and she's like, oh, wow. When you look at a private box, like you go to a UPS store, and you look at the address lines, you're going to see next to the zip code a registered trademark. That's a first indicator of the fact that is a trademark of somebody or something, and it's basically the trademark for the United States government under the Zone Improvement Plan. And you prove it by putting a mailbox on your land, giving jurisdiction of the land and turning basically the land into property and governed by the United States. Now, at the post office box, what I did, and what I'm doing for a new box I'm opening up, is I take the word zip out, and I put that 5 digits in there, the 5 numbers, and I bracket it. Down on the signature line, I did a lot more. I removed all the warnings, the criminal, the I agrees, I crossed out a lot of crap on that form. I took out the word city, I took out the word state, and I filled in the document just like you would anything else. And this is the form that goes to the post office, not the UPS store, but the UPS store receives that and forwards it to the post office. And that shows that you have taken the office holder position of the person. Now, that's it in a nutshell. And so down on the signature line of that document, I put all rights reserved, without prejudice, non-assumptive, non-domiciled, non-person, non-resident. And I sign my full living name, and I'm good. Because when that thing gets submitted and they accept it and forward that to the United States Post Office, I'm literally an American. I take the word CA. It's not CA. It's not an abbreviation. Abbreviations are also registered trademarks of the corporation. I put the full name of the state, California, in all appropriate areas. And I recontract with that post office, not assuming the office holder position, non-domiciled, non-resident, those are the 2 key words, non-person, third key word, non-assumptive, no contract with the federal government whatsoever, all rights reserved, that's my rights under God, without prejudice. Boom. Done. Done and done. Once that's done, I want you to just imagine for a second you're in federal court, because they did this to my old president, James Timothy Turner. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. What they did in court when he was trying to say that he's of an Indian nation and that they don't have jurisdiction over him, this is what they did. They had to prove, because you can challenge subject matter jurisdiction in court at any time, but they had to prove that they had him as a United States citizen. So what they did was they showed a passport application where he checked off U.S. citizen. The second thing they showed was his E-Trade account. The third thing they showed was his taxes that he did in 2009. Done. So you're saying that you went and applied for a passport and you said that you were a United States citizen, but today you're not a United States citizen. Is that correct? That's basically how it went down. Jurisdiction was established clearly by his own omission. One of the Supreme Court justices in our country will flat out tell you 98% of all people in custody right now are there by their own errors and omissions. In other words, shut your mouth and do not contract with the corporation. If you're worried about your Social Security benefits and that's more important to you, then don't even try to get out of the corporation. Because to receive a benefit is a new contract. So when you do all these things and say, I am a state citizen and I am getting out, and I want to be exclusively a state citizen, but you are wanting to receive a benefit, you still can. I'm just going to say lawfully you can, but if you get in trouble for any reason, IRS issue, criminal issue, whatever, it's going to be hard to convince a jury that you properly recontracted unless you know the law explicitly. It's going to be very hard to convince a jury what those applications meant.
Confederation.
What's that?
I said use the Articles of Confederation. Right there it says you don't have to be a citizen and you get all the privileges because it's still written law. So therefore, you don't have to be a citizen to get all the benefits and the privileges. So that's what I would bring up if they said anything to me about it. That's exactly what I'd tell them.
Yeah, but they're going to come back and they're going to say, you know what?
It doesn't make it doesn't.
Well, if you're putting something on an application that says you're a citizen, you're a citizen.
Well, the problem is they got fraud because if you know what the definition of a citizen is, it's somebody that takes allegiance or an oath to the United States. So therefore, you don't take an oath. You can't even say you're a U.S. citizen. Do you know what the definition for U.S. citizen is, or United States anyway?
Yeah, I would agree with you in theory, but try to convince 12 people.
Well, I would because
if you got it on an application, and you've got it on your driver's license application, and you've got it on your cards, and you got it on everything, to defer to the Articles of Confederation, I'll defer you back to the Constitution where it says you have a right to contract with any party you wish, and that's the highest form of law in the land. And
but the Constitution don't apply to you anyway. So what makes the difference about the Constitution? Because you have to take an oath or affirmation, Article 6. That's why the judges and all of them are part of the corporation. They are what you call the citizen. Okay.
Well, in the courtroom, there is multiple jurisdictions. You've got the oath jurisdiction to the Constitution, but that only applies to the state citizen. When that judge sees you walking in the courtroom with your driver's license and your ticket, and he looks on the ticket and he sees that you signed and that you have a driver's license, he already knows that you're the gold fringe. He already knows
but the problem that he has is they already. See, the problem is because we just went to court the other day with my boy, and he tried to play that same crap with him, and then he opened their book, which is the 2012 Organic Laws, and that judge didn't know what to do because now he's like a snake. He's trying to worm his way out of there, and he kept wanting my boy to say that he was a citizen. And Brandon stood right up there and told him, "You're the citizen. You know what administrative law means? Do you know what that means?"
Yeah.
Well, them administrative is part of the government, okay, and they'll say citizen in there, but the problem is you got to define what a citizen is. Well, to be naturalized, you have to take an oath, okay? Now, you can be born in the United States, plus in their code, in the USC code, defines what United States is, which is the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico. So, therefore, you can't even be a citizen of the United States. So, therefore, they can't even use that in court because you can blow that right out of the water. So
I know, but imagine this for 1 second. Imagine if your son presented a passport, United States of America passport, and a certified copy of his application into the court, into the record of the court, moving the court to dismiss his case based on a lack of subject matter jurisdiction and be over. Because there is no jurisdiction based on the fact that the acknowledgement of the federal government, because of that application, because of that passport, showing that personam and subject matter jurisdiction doesn't apply to that individual or that people.
Okay, but what court are you talking about? Are you talking what are you talking about court? Because there is no more federal districts because that was taken away when the state became a state in the
I'm talking about the administrative
territory.
courts. I'm talking about an administrative law tribunal. They need to establish jurisdiction over the body, and they do that by their signatures. I got it, but they assume it. They assume a lot of things, but when you tell them that they don't have territorial jurisdiction because their jurisdiction is only for U.S. territory, period, because that's what the Constitution does. It limits them to their... I agree. Bailiff, please get ready to put cuffs on this individual. If you say one more word in my courtroom, I'm going to have you arrested. Do you understand?
That's right, because then I'm going after his oath, and then I'll go after his bond.
I know, but we're talking theories right now. Let's talk let's talk simple facts in law. That if your son had a driver's license, no, you are. But the fact remains, if your son has a contract in place, any kind of contract that says he's under the United States corporate government, that's a private party in which an administrative law tribunal would apply.
It doesn't.
What is your name? What is your first name?
Gary.
Okay, Gary.
But how does it apply if you're not a citizen? That's what I want to know, because if you can you prove that you're a U.S. citizen?
That's what he's saying. They can prove that you're a U.S. citizen because you're filling out passports, getting driver's license. You're acquiescing. You're signing their adhesion contract. That's how they're burning people right now.
Well, but they can't. But the thing is what you can do is you prove that I'm a U.S. citizen. Just because I said it on a piece of paper, I didn't know the fraud in the beginning. Plus, if you go back into the Articles of Confederation, it says you get all the benefits, and you don't even have to be a citizen. So therefore, they're actually practicing law outside their territorial jurisdiction. So therefore, it doesn't apply to anybody.
Let me ask
Gary,
you a question.
Gary, why don't you go ahead and produce some wins underneath that, and let Kelby finish right now, because you totally derailed the whole conversation.
Well, Gary has a good point. Gary, you have a good point, but let's understand something. Anytime we walk into court and we say out loud with our mouth, we're not a 14th Amendment corporate United States citizen, the judge immediately is going to do something to try to gain jurisdictional position over you. That's what they do. We're playing a verbal game of ping pong. You know that, Gary. I mean, we start hitting the ball back and forth, and he hits it one way, and I hit it back another way, and pretty soon you get tired. I've watched my friends, one of my best friends, 150, we counted 158 times that they tried to gain jurisdiction over him verbally. We are only as good as our latest contract, and a verbal agreement between the parties is just as strong as anything else. So if you walk into court with your proper position and they can show and prove otherwise by your own admission, by your own signatures, they assume, they go forward, they'll take possession of the body, they'll put you in a solitary confinement under, and this is what they do. They say, if you say one more thing, and this is an agreement, if you listen to it, you say one more thing, I'm going to put you in contempt of court. Do you understand? And people actually say, yes, I understand. And then they say one more thing, and then they go to jail because they don't understand, verbal agreements or contract law. Respectfully, I do not understand. I have not submitted to the jurisdiction of this court. I am not a person. I'm the living man standing before you. Here's my proof. On and for the public record, which is something a lot of people don't know, when you're walking into these administrative law tribunals, you're literally in a private bar venue. That's where you're at. You're not in that judge does have an oath, but you need to prove you're worthy of his oath. And what do I mean by that? Show that you're one of the people and not one of the persons. Show that you didn't assume office holder position of the person and then try to deny it later when you get in trouble and you're not complying by the rules and regulations. That's what pisses them off, is they think that they are gods and that they are ruling over a fourth-level citizenry called a federal citizen, known as a federal employee. And if you sign anything, anywhere, anytime, saying that you are, it is a fact because you're walking into court and you're done. You're done. The jurisdiction has been established.
And
so
they frankly don't care if we didn't know about the fraud in the beginning. They just don't care.
They don't. And as
you
a matter
might
of
win
fact,
a case here or there, like maybe Gary's son did, yesterday or whatever. Some people get lucky. Yeah, some people get lucky.
He won't. Well, because the judge couldn't, like I said, the judge, that's what he threw right back at him. He says, well, the 14th Amendment does not apply to me. And it doesn't apply because you have to be born in the United States, which is defined the District of Columbia or Puerto Rico.
Right.
And you can find it in the U.S. codes. Okay? So, therefore, he couldn't do anything to him. And he had like 3 things on him. So, it was a big deal. I mean, it really is. Now I'm going back after taxes and everything because they have to prove they have jurisdiction, and they can't because their jurisdiction is limited. So, therefore, and if you go in, like in Ohio, you got the United States flag, and how you can tell the difference between the United States and American flag is the one's got yellow fringes. Well, if you look at Ohio flag, it looks the same, but it's got yellow. That's the second union. That's what's called in the Constitution. This Constitution. It's a business charter. Who would want to be part of a Constitution? I mean, you'd be stupid to be part of it.
Well, you're not a part of the Constitution. The Constitution is there to restrain the quote-unquote governing body over the people. And being the fact that the original Bill of Rights was there for we the people to protect their posterity, you have to understand who we the people are. I think you've been sold a couple of bills of ladle from the standpoint of the Constitution not applying to you. It doesn't really apply to you, but you can receive the benefits of it because other people have taken a sworn oath to it. Now, the question is, are you walking in, and they show you the jurisdictions. They'll show you the multiple jurisdictions, but they won't hang the Republic flag, and they won't hang your true state flag. They're only going to hang the gold fringe corporate flags. And that's because they believe that's all that's walking into their court is the corporate employee. And so the corporate employee broke the code, the ordinance, the policy of the corporation. The employee needs to pay. And the employees, the employee is, oh man, I got to get on the Republic call in 4 minutes, President. Sorry. The employee is literally literally a party to the action automatically based on his agreements that he has with the corporation. You can't just back yourself up based on throwing the Articles of Confederation or the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or whatever. Guys, I got to cut this off. I got to go jump on the Republic call. We're going to be talking about why the Republic is real if you want to get on that call tonight. But
give out
I
the
got to
number
go.
if you want, Kelby. Can you give it real quick?
Yeah, let me look it up for you.
Thank you for your coming to our call, Kelby.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. You know what? Go to republicfortheunitedstates.org, and the call is listed there. My apologies. I don't have time to look it up, Randy. I got to
no problem.
jump right now. Blessings to you guys. Gary, I don't ever want to feel like I'm at odds with you, buddy. I've seen so many actions and so many different things. Contracting is very important for us, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, but the thing is, the articles are still law and they're still petro.
I hear you. I got to go. Love you guys. Have a good day. Thank you for your time.
You got it. Thank you. Hey, I'm not sure why it keeps throwing everybody into mute. Hold on just 1 second, you guys. Okay, there we go. It threw everyone into mute, and I didn't touch a thing. So sorry about that. I apologize. We didn't get to open him up for questions, although Gary got in there, and I think Chris got in there, so that was good. And Chris, thank you for that. Gary, so basically what you're saying on the Articles of Confederation, I don't want to cut you out on your chance to talk here. Do you have a website or something that you can refer everybody to that you're studying from maybe, or, where are you getting your information? Are you still with us? I think I've got
Do you have them all muted?
No, I think everybody's off mute now. I took every single person off.
Well,
Yeah, I think
for Gary's benefit, I would suggest that grasping the meaning is better verbiage than understanding, because understanding has legal implications and jurisdictional implications to it.
one thing I wanted to throw out there is there's a gentleman, and I talked about his case a year and a half ago. He's up in Oregon, and he actually went back on the IRS and said, look, I found out that, I didn't need to be paying taxes. You didn't have jurisdiction over me, blah, blah, blah. He got every single dime he ever paid to them. It was like $400,000 or $500,000. And everything was fine. And then guess what? 5 years goes by, 4 years goes by, and they say, you know what? Hey, we want our money back. And they came back after him, and they took that guy to court probably 2 to 3 times every single month for a year. And finally, and what he kept saying is, I do not understand. I don't understand what you're saying to me, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you, Brett. I see that coming through. Finally, the judge ordered him, and by the way, they kept giving him attorneys, court-appointed attorneys. He kept hiring them, saying he didn't want them, because, of course, they were just trying to make a deal. What happened was they kept having powwows at the judge's table, where he was, and they finally decided to order him to bring in a passport. They asked him if he had one, and they ordered him to bring it in. So again, they were establishing some sort of jurisdiction that, yes, indeed, he had said he was a citizen of the United States, and he did not come into court with the passport, and the judge said he was in contempt of court and threw him in jail, and from there, literally, they cut him off all contact from everyone. They put him in a van, and they drove him all around this country where people had no idea where he was, what was happening to him, et cetera, et cetera. And now they finally did sentence him, and he got several years over that. So I'm just saying, once they have established jurisdiction, and I'm assuming that somehow they must have tracked down that he did have a passport, and so they, in their minds, said, yeah, we got jurisdiction over this guy. And the IRS ended up winning in the end on that. He's behind bars now, and it's totally unfortunate because he was a good guy. And he was doing just fine until the passport. So what Kelby's talking about is accurate. And, one of the things that he and I have discussed over the last few days is about the mail, and he got into it. I'm going to take it a little bit further. Even a P.O. box is not okay. And I'm going to mute a couple of you. Donna, I'm sorry, 215. You just got too much background noise. If you can shut it off, I won't have to mute you. Same for 630. Thank you, Donna. And 773. Not sure who that is, but I'm going to have to mute you. I'm sorry. Okay, so a lot of people are starting to take the mailboxes out of their yards, off of their houses, okay, getting rid of the jurisdiction, not letting them have anything. That's one thing. The other thing, the mail at your house, getting it stopped. The second thing is a P.O. box doesn't do you any favors. So getting rid of a P.O. box. One of the things that you can do is open up a box at UPS. Now, what I found by doing that is UPS says, well, we can't give you the form. Remember he mentioned about taking things off of the form, like when they go to the bathroom or getting them to go get you a drink of water and you cross off zip code and you cross off city and state. I talked to UPS over the phone because they have a long form, and they would not email it to me. They would not fax it to me. They said I had to come in and do it there. So what I did was a search on the Internet, and I found it. And you can take that PDF form, and you can alter it. You can get a free trial version of Adobe, I don't know what it's called, Reader or whatever, and you can alter the document right there and put on the things that he said. So if anyone is interested in that, just pop me off an email.
You know,
and
Randy,
help you out with that. Yeah.
it's very important that we all grasp consciously that we have not only the right but the duty and obligation to make sure any terms of any contract that we voluntarily consider assigning our name to, or scripting or autographing, are agreeable to us, because the first element of contract is agreement between the parties.
That's right.
And when you find onerous terms, onerous meaning terms that own you by the verbiage or words in the contract, you have an obligatory duty to read it and make sure they're acceptable, or to strike by a single line through with initials on both sides in a color other than black, so that it is clearly obvious that you did not agree, accept, or come to an understanding with those particular elements of the contract. And that applies to any form of contract, and I would allege that anything that you put your name at the bottom of is, in essence, some form of contract, be it tacit, overt, subvert, or perhaps unconscionable, thereby having hidden terms that are not clearly disclosed by one of the parties that maybe is offering the contract in fraud and with deceit.
And I agree with that, yes.
Another thing that you talked about with the posting things, if you don't mind, our post location, it's not without at least a reasonable, plausible expectation that one could remove the onerous terms of the postal codes and the zone identifier protocols that I think Kelby called something else, and properly post and notify those who would deliver mail to that location that this is not in the federal zone, this is not a federal territory, it's non-domestic, non-resident. There are several disclaimers that you could remove the onerous applications of these tacit presumptions from your postal location for the postal company. Of course, that's a private foreign-owned corporation. Many people may not know that. Delivers mail for you. And so it's like putting a no trespass sign in your private conveyance in the front and the back to notice all parties that you do not give permission for them to enter, where they might grab your door handle and attempt to open it to take you into custody without lawful right under the law of the West, where a failure to post, notice, or advise others that you do not accept their offer to enter, and they presume and assume that an unlocked gate, open door, or unposted land is an invitation to enter precisely.
That's good. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Yeah, Chris, I'd like a follow-up question on that. I had read through John Quaid's stuff, and you might be familiar with him, but I learned from him that he says you can do just as well by addressing things as general delivery at the local post office, and there's not specific, and you just stick with the general delivery. What do you say about that?
Chris, did you hear that? Oh, I think we might have lost him, Brad.
Right.
Let me look. I heard somebody drop. Yep, it was him. He'll call back in.
Okay, all right.
Are you there, Chris?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, he had a question for you.
I heard the question. Like I say, I just did not have familiarity with that particular concept under the postal code. It sounds plausible, and I would suggest that if he has information on it, perhaps he could send it to you, and you could send it around. We'd all be interested in learning more. That's what we're all about, is sharing together, learning together, and teaching one another so that we can all grow stronger, more powerful, more knowledgeable, and more wise.
Sure. Yeah, the theory being, or maybe it's a fact, the theory being, but the U.S. Post Office existed prior to any of the 1933 corporations or the bankruptcy or any of that. So that we can go back and it's considered almost as organic. So that's the theory, but I'll send it out and then like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I can certainly attest to the fact that I absolutely have possession of the law and the postal regulations and code that clearly state unequivocally that utilization of the zip code, the Federal Zone Identifier Protocol, is strictly voluntary, and there is no obligation for anyone to use it, and your mail will be delivered perfectly if you put exempt or if you bracket it or whatever and put 9959s or whatever you choose to do. There are several different methodologies of obliterating the onerous application of the federal territorial extensions to the locations that the zip code is used to mail to without knowledge or competency.
Right, I'm familiar with that, putting in the brackets as well and opting out and all that. Just to kind of function in the world, Chris, if you go and do an online form or if you order off Amazon and everything, you don't even have the option for which to do that. At least I've not found it. Have you found a good workaround for doing commerce over the internet where their forms don't even seem to give you another option?
Well, some sites will allow you to enter exempt. Some will allow you to enter 9999 or perhaps 5 zeros. But you're right. Some of those what are termed unconscionable contracts where you have no right to, it's strictly a take it or leave it contract is what that constitutes. You run across those all the time in acceptance of terms of the internet or kiosk for the government and different entities and buy it now kiosk and so on and so forth. They all insist on trying to apply that federal zone identifier because they've all been programmed, indoctrinated, and basically brainwashed to utilize them, thinking that it actually accelerates delivery. And I don't think there's any actual supportable facts that verify that whatsoever. It's just an illusion to get you to dupe you and to get you trapped into their corporate schemes.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll continue, and I'll send along what I have about the general delivery to Randy, and she can send it out.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? And
hello?
Yes. Actually, before we get into that real quick, is Paul on the line by chance? Paul? No. Okay, go ahead.
I noticed that when they do not have a jurisdiction, they start with a sovereign citizen. And right now I am dealing with a federal court for a driving issue on their federal land. And it's a national park, and one of the road is part of the park. So they said that's a federal land, and I speed. So basically I've been sending lots of documents and laws and stuff. They completely ignore the law. The United States Code basically states that a federal enclave, the piece of property that within the state, any vehicle matter issue shall be determined by the state law. So now federal court doesn't have any jurisdiction over the state law, and so now they're really frustrated. And now their attorney, new attorney came, and the other attorney just completely moved away because he could not say anything. So the new attorney took over, and she went on and on and on about sovereign citizen. And so that's a presumption. There is no fact that she knows the fact that I am a sovereign citizen. And so everything is a presumption. And in their legal term, a person means a natural person, and even natural person is not defined, whether it is a state citizen or citizen of the United States or a natural person could be anything. And so their legal terms is like that. So United States have many different meaning. So you can't take it for anything for assumption or presumption. And that's why the federal rule of civil procedure, presumption has to be verified by material facts if a party challenges it. So you have to challenge almost everything in their legal term. So,
Gloria, I absolutely agree with what you said there. You have to object and challenge and demand proof of what their allegations are. And if the attorney is testifying to facts or allusions of facts, you must object and challenge his ability to testify, not a first-party competent witness, and therefore everything he says is mere hearsay. The other thing that I would suggest in your particular case you might look at is, remember, the first element is go back to the very beginning of all things, and the stop itself. Was there lawful reason to stop your automobile? Not a vehicle. Vehicle's a commercial term, you know that. But was there suspicion of a felony crime to give them permission to be in your presence? That's the powerful Thompson versus Smith case, and it also comports with Title 18 United States Code, Section 245, Part 2, or perhaps Part B, sub in parenthetical E, which concerns the right to travel being a federally protected right, and that anybody who interjects in your right to travel is committing a felony crime by stopping you from it without the suspicion of a felony crime, because they frequently pervert the meaning of probable cause, and they make the mistake of presuming that an infraction or a violation of traffic by a private automobile is a felony, when in fact it's only a misdemeanor, or perhaps a gross misdemeanor if you were really going fast. And so they really had no lawful premise to stop you to be in your presence, and that's that Thompson versus Smith, Terry versus Ohio, Miranda Supra, and there's a myriad of cases I know you know very, very well, but those are some things that might assist you in your matter.
Yeah, actually, can I talk to you after the show? Tomorrow I have a court date, and I'm preparing another document. Basically, she came on and talking about sovereign citizen. So basically, another attorney did that on a mortgage case. When I showed that I filed a UCC and here is a bond and I do not owe any money, blah blah blah, for my friend. I have my name on the house, so I do not own anything. But he actually had a mortgage, so I came in. I am one of the landowner. I do not owe anything. So that's when attorney attacked me as a sovereign citizen.
I would object to that malicious labeling. Or perhaps it's also called profiling you as a sovereign citizen, because sovereign, of course, sov means self, and reign means to rule, regulate, control, or takes private responsibility for one's own actions.
So what I did is I completely turned that around and put them as a criminal by negotiating with the private information. And they actually put my UCC in bond, even though I recorded in public place. Still, it is for my use, and I could designate it to a party where they can dig in and look at it, and it's not for all the public people. So basically, they use my information, and then they put those information out on the public, and then they were actually bargaining with the court. And that's what
sounds like a tremendous violation of the Privacy Act.
That's a criminal act. It's called barratry in Champery. So actually, when I announced that in a court paper, they just ran away really fast as they can.
Cool. Like I say, they violated your privacy. That's Privacy Act violation, just like Kelby was talking about earlier. And they've possibly, if they put it in the public, they've endangered you and caused you a tortable injury by putting your privacy at danger of being compromised and perhaps being preyed upon by predators.
So that's their tactic.
Yes.
if they cannot get your jurisdiction, and they will come in as a sovereign citizen. Then you have to learn how to turn that around and put them as a criminal. So
you
now
always have to object. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, everything is presumed, and then attorney cannot put any facts or any testimony on behalf of the witness. And
that's Trinzi versus Pagliaro and Potter versus Potter.
Right. So basically, it's all presumption, and there's no fact that I am a sovereign citizen. And she came in as I'm a resident of Pennsylvania. And I defined what resident means. Basically, resident does not have any intention to stay in one house or location. Only man could stay in one location at a time. So man could declare domicile within the state with a small s. Then that's where you become state citizen. So when you do that, you're not a resident anymore. So that's very important to have this document recorded, because once it's recorded, it is a lawful evidence by federal rule. So so basically, these documents can be challenged to the Secretary of State, and if they default, now your words stands superior. And they have to give the right passport. So
that's right. You have first-hand competent knowledge to what you're testifying to. They are testifying with hearsay, specifically if you challenge them on hearsay rule.
So now, my court case, actually, I am adding. I'm right now. I haven't come out of a counterclaim because my paperwork is not completely done yet, and I'm supposed to go to the Secretary of State and put all the authenticated seal on my document, and I will have a foreign judgment against the United States of America. So, because of the witness, actually, I went after the witness, and he was acquiescence. So there is a foreign judgment, but tomorrow I cannot present that yet. So I haven't come out with a counterclaim, but I am adding actually a Secretary of State to my court case, and because of the fact that I did send a passport application to him. And because my passport is not just a normal passport, it's a state citizen's passport. Is not just anybody would handle, I believe. So I sent it to him, and he actually sent it back to me without giving me a passport. So he already violated my right, and he is the head of the department where the American jurisprudence basically states that if your rights are denied as a national, then you could actually create a declaratory judgment against the head of the administrator of that department. So basically, I gotta pull him into the court case because his action really created my damage. And because of he's the only one who actually have our power to determine the political status, and he actually violated my rights, and then all this becomes a chain reaction. So,
if I might possibly offer something, if you're going to service the State Attorney General, I would urge you to also serve the governor, because those are the two highest officers of the state, and should you have to sue the state and its agents, both of those parties have to be noticed of whatever the controversy is to give you standing to do so.
So basically, the state of the Secretary of State in Washington, D.C., then also as Secretary of the Department of Transportation of my state, and they work together. And basically, the statute, state statute states that a non-citizen can be exempt and not have to have a driver license, or you could have a license but has to be indicated in a driver license with the documentation that comes from the Immigration and Naturalization Service or successor. That's what it says. So basically, having the proper identity document is very, very important, because that makes the whole entire chain reaction. And so when you have that, then you could actually do all kinds of things with it. You can have a driver license, and you could have, you could open up a bank account with no Social Security number, all that stuff. But because of the Secretary of State is not properly identifying me and refused to do so, he violated my rights and also damaged me. So I am intent to pull those two human beings into my court paper, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna say, "Oh, what is it the Secretary of State have to do?" And I could see they're gonna say things like that. But hey, I'm going to explain why they have to get involved, and I need them to be in my in a trial by jury. And because they are the only one who could say, yes, she is a resident, or yes, she is a national, or yes, she is a citizen of the United States. So no one can determine, because these contracts that you got enter, it's unconscionable. There's no way that you would have known all this contract at the young age, or even you studying now. There's no way to learn all these things. Okay, so you could get into contract without knowing. So you waive your right only when you are totally in acknowledgement of what you're doing fully and completely understand. So basically, you never got into contract consciously. So that is void. That contract is void. And besides, if they claim that they have a contract with you, okay, then bring my original application. Bring it now, okay? Federal government could subpoena and bring all the records. Bring it. I want to inspect. I want to know where the original is, okay? I have a power. I have a power to do that. Because they're accusing me, right? They have to then show the contract, isn't it? UCC 3-501. They have to show the original instrument. So if they cannot show, then there is no contract. So
how did this actually start, Gloria? Which case is this? It
was just traffic. I was traveling, and the troopers stopped me, and he said, on a 45-mile zone, you're driving 72. And so I gave him my recorded document, and I didn't show him my driver license, and I used only for the banking purpose. And then he looked at my recorded declaration, and in that declaration, I have the declaration of domicile, the declaration of expatriation, in case if anyone presumes that I am a U.S. citizen here, I expatriate, So I had all that 20-page document, and I showed him that, and he figured it out, and he was searching for that resident in a driver a license. Even though I didn't give it to him, he was searching, and he did found it, and he actually found the Social Security number and all that, and he wanted me to sign with the Social Security number written there, and he wanted me to sign something, and it was basically a bail bond. He did not take me to the magistrate judge, and he actually put me into like a jail cage kind of thing, like, the wire. And he was preparing all this document, and then he told me to sign it. So I said, "What is it?" He goes, "You have to read it." So anyway, I cannot understand these forms talking about bonds and things like that. So I have no idea. And I basically said, "Okay, give me the paper," and and he said if I don't sign it, he cannot release me. So I said, "Okay, I'll sign it," and I signed it under duress, threat, coercion, and all rights reserved, and authorized representative. So, UCC, when authorized representative sign with ambiguously, then the representative is not liable. So basically, that contract is void, and so they just trying to find a way to come after me, and so when I had the car is not even registered, and I got a title, and this is I put into a trust. So basically, this is foreign trust, and the foreign vehicles do not have to register. That's what it says in their vehicle code. So, I don't have a driver registered and the insurance, and they told me if I don't get it, I'm not going to have my car. So they confiscate the car. So I was forced to contract again, and I went around next day and spent about $2,000 contracting, with insurance and registration. And then I picked up the car, and then I returned all the tickets back to the court, and basically that's what happened, and then that was like October last year, and then I sent him private notice. I started sending private notice, and finally he defaulted, and I sent him a bill for $5.5 million. His name / United States of America.
When did you give him the bill?
I gave him the bill about 3 weeks ago, and then now the attorney saying the solvent citizen, she's sending documents and blah blah blah. But then hey, we have a right to present the documents under UCC 3-505. The notary public can present the instruments, and if instruments are rejected or did not take an offer or refuse the acceptance, then the notary could actually create a certificate of dishonor. So basically, every document can be presented by notary.
Gloria, there are a couple other things there. Perhaps the UCC may be pertinent in your case, but under the First Amendment, we all have a right to petition for redress of grievances to the government or other individuals. And the other aspect I think that you spoke to there that required some attention was you were talking about billing them. Now they're claiming that you're a sovereign citizen. See, that's profiling. And they have no proof other than their mere theories that you're a sovereign citizen based upon their delusions, illusions, and their legal agendas. So you definitely have to aver those allegations and provide some proof and facts and law in your evidence, okay?
Yeah, the UCC 3-505 it stays right there. I can send all my documents to the notary public. So they're done. So that'll be interesting.
It will be. Do you have any witnesses going or?
No. I'm pretty confident. Now she filed the paperwork, and then now I'm gonna go to court tomorrow, and I serve my paper. And then probably in the next hearing, I'll be moving to the Article 3 court, the foreign judgment. So, awesome. But I would love to actually sue the attorney, all attorneys, into Article 3 court and put everybody on the defendant. because this particular attorney, what she did was wrong, bringing as a sovereign citizen with the
Remember,
no fact.
You have a particular claim that you've got to state in order to move to that Article 3 general justice of a constitutional issue, and that is particularly and specifically constitutional diversity of citizenship. I think that's Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. That's where that term occurs, and that means that you're foreign to the jurisdiction of Corp US or their agencies as either an American or a foreign passport holder. And so whenever you know those things, that gives you standing to take your case to that proper jurisdiction of the Article 3 that you're seeking to invoke and move properly to.
Well, actually, the Article 3 court is much more easier to invoke when you become a private attorney general. So we'll be filing. I don't really care about the foreign judgment to collect the $5.5 million. I rather actually file it under private attorney general and come in as a prosecutor. And I would love to prosecute her because that's not right what she did. And if our attorney presents any fraud, the attorney is liable, 100%.
In fact, she could be perjuring herself by false testifying, making unfounded claims as profiling you in a malicious, arrogant act of retaliatory class-based animus and attempting to label you as something you are so she'd have some reason to declare you an enemy of the state.
Yeah, she has no evidence. So now I'm going to challenge what she wrote, line by line. She has to prove it. And there's no witness coming into the court. There's nobody. And these attorneys trying to force everybody to, pay for money. And so basically it's like the U.S. attorneys are conducting business alone in the courtroom. There was no judge. There was no witness. It was just the attorney alone. And back then it was this guy named John. And now they said they take alternate every month. The different U.S. attorney comes in. So
I think you're right on that, except that I think you have to sue the individuals in their private and corporate capacities as foreign agents, demand them to produce their Foreign Agents Registration Act papers to prove their capacity to be in these foreign courts, and those will give you a little bit more power, invoke notice of foreign law. Those sorts of things are pretty higher level concepts, but I think you're competent and knowledgeable enough to employ those in your own defense, and so I only suggest those as helpful suggestions.
And it was kind of interesting thing. I found this some document that letter of marque. Basically, these are attorneys trying to come and steal your property. So, where is your letter of marque that is granted by Congress? Show me.
Yeah, letter of marque or marquee is a right to privateer. You're precisely correct in that, and also to kill in the name of the crown.
So if they claim that they're privateer and I am the, merchant at sea, credit crime, whatever, so where is the letter of marque that granted by Congress? These U.S. attorneys, they are acting, they think they can do whatever they want. And then the park ranger think that he can arrest anybody he wants without warrant. So I definitely want to go after these two.
Well, I think I would teach him a lesson. You need to show him the law and take his stuff, and let him know you can take stuff when they act outside the law yourself, when they get to be full of themselves and they don't actually know what they speak and practice law without a license and show their incompetency.
So basically, I asked for trial by jury, and now I'm demanding common law grand jury because before trial, there have to be grand jury investigation, and there has to be a conviction in order to have a trial. You can't just go to trial. There has to be evidence, a conviction. Okay, so there has to be grand jury. So they have to give it to me. And, she says something in the paper that I cannot have a grand jury. I cannot have a grand jury.
So this lawyer thinks she can deprive you of your rights, your natural rights, under the natural law, under the American law system? This attorney is deceiving herself. I think we should let others have a chance to put their things before the call, if you don't mind, Gloria, but that's up to you or Randy, so that's just a suggestion.
Does anybody have anything that they want to throw out there while we have these two on the line? Sounds like it's pretty quiet. I did want to, it may be too late, but I doubt it. If you want to check out the Republic call, the phone number is 712-432-0075. Again, 712-432-0075. And the code is 594-637#. Again, 594-637#. I'm going to go ahead and mute one of your lines there. It's giving me an echo back. If anybody has anything, bring it up now or forever hold your peace, because a lot of people are going to hop to that Republic call that's been going on for about 40 minutes. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, we're gonna end it here. It's a little bit early for us generally, but I want to give people a chance to get to the Republic call. And we had a great call. Please go back and listen to the recording, take notes, and start to remove yourself from the jurisdiction. It was a phenomenal call. Chris, Gloria, thank you as always.
Hey,
Brad, you jumped in there.
Can the Chris call me?
Yes.
Can the Chris call me? Okay.
In fact, I'll just, when we hang up, Gloria, I'm going to make sure I give him your phone number, okay?
Okay. All right.
That'd be okay.
Awesome. If you're there, or since you're there.
Why don't you send it to me rather than putting it over the phone, if you don't mind?
You got it. I'm going to send it.